everyone for coming for our second summer meeting. I guess I can introduce myself again since I'm like a new member here. I'm Kennedy, I'm the treasurer here. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing some art programs that I've experienced, that I have some experience with. I'm only going to introduce around 4 for right now, just for time's sake. But if you have any other art programs that you know about and have some experience with, feel free to comment down below. So today, for the first art program that I'll be introducing is Fire Alpaca, which is a free art program. Some pros about Fire Alpaca is that it has a variety of brushes that can be used. I admittedly haven't used it that much, but for me, when I used it for like test runs and things like that, I feel it was fairly easy to use for the brushes. It also has an animation option. So if you wanted to make some animations for maybe like walking sprites or things like that, you can use it for that. Another free art program, which is also a sister program of Fire Alpaca, is MetaBank. I've used this app a lot before I got some of the other art programs that I've used. For me personally, I really enjoyed using MetaBank. I feel it's pretty easy to use and the UI is pretty friendly. But yeah, another thing with MetaBang is that it's actually pretty accessible on all devices. Like you can even use it on your phone, and it's also on Mac and also on Windows. So you can use it on any laptop or even on your phone. One of the cons though about MetaBang is that some of the options that they give you, like the brushes, are pretty limited, and it can be pretty limiting sometimes. So if you're looking for a program with more options, MetaBang may be a little bit limiting for you, but it's still fairly nice to use. So here's the paid art programs. So if you want to spend some cash on the game jam, you can use these 2 art programs. This art program is the one that I currently use, and is personally my favorite art program that I've used, Clip Studio Paint. It's relatively cheap for the art program. It's on sale like all the time. So the normal price for Clip Studio Paint Pro is around $50, but usually it can go down to $25. So catch it around a sales time so you don't have to spend as much money on it. Along with the cheap prices, it's also like extremely awesome to use. They have a lot of options for brushes. If you want to get like a certain texture, you can like literally go to like the CSP apps. It's like its own little store where you can customize and get brushes from other artists that submitted them. So if you want to have a certain look on it, you can get those type of brushes. Most of them are free, so you don't have to like worry about paying for it. I say Clip Studio is better than Photoshop in my opinion. Like it's a little bit easier to use and it's a lot cheaper. And is actually an art program, unlike Photoshop, which is just an editing program. I don't really know why half studios using Photoshop like that. It's really weird. But Clip Studio Paint has a lot of options in it. Like it's really big. The only downside about Clip Studio Paint that I can really say is that at first, if you're like really new to art programs, it can be confusing to use. The layout is similar to Photoshop, but it's a little less like overwhelming. But it can still be a little weird if you never used an art program before. About the animation is only really like good if you have the EX version, because the Pro version only lets you have a certain amount of frames, so you can't really do like a full-fledged animation on Clip Studio, but you can still make things like a walking cycle on there. I've used it for that purpose, so you can still use it, you just can't really use it that much. And the EX version is around a couple $100 too. it's sometimes around the sale, it can be around that price too. But last time I checked, it was up to around like 200, I think, like around that price. Yeah, it's really expensive last time I checked. It may have gone down though last time I looked at it. So the other paid art program that I think is really good is Paint Tool Sai. I used Paint Tool Sai before I switched over to Clip Studio Paint. With Paint Tool Sai, I say it has one of the best brushes, like one of the best default brushes out of the other art programs. Like I actually prefer coloring on Paint Tool Sai than I do on Clip Studio Paint sometimes because the brushes are just that good. It's also cheap, just like Clip Studio Paint, but it doesn't really go on sale that much, so it's usually around $50. So if you feel like paying half $100 on the art program, you can. Some cons with Paint Tool Sai is that unlike Clip Studio Paint, there isn't like an option to use that many customizable brushes. So you're gonna have to mostly stick with the ones that they give you. And unlike the other art programs, there is no animation or comic book option. So if you're thinking about doing animation on on Paint Tool Sai, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to do that because they don't give you an option to do animation. It's mainly just a painting art program, so you're just going to have to stick with that. And last time I checked, there is no Mac version for Paint Tool Sai, so you can only really use it on the Windows laptop, unfortunately. But other than that, Sai is a really good art program that you can use for just making your artwork look pretty. Oh yeah, and Sai is like really great for people starting out. Like if you're starting out on like getting serious with art, I recommend Paint Tool Sai if you can spend a little cash. If you can't spend money, I recommend Metabang personally.
All right. Hi, I'm Trevor, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to use Audacity for basic audio editing. Now, you'll open the program, and you'll just see all of these options, and then you'll close the program and not come back to it for several months. But honestly, most of this you can just ignore. Really, the only two tools on this interface you're going to need are the selection tool and the time shift tool. Just these two. So I have this one track, and I'm going to show you how to edit it. Now, you can see that that track sort of starts really sharp, so I'm going to show you how to make it fade in a bit. So you can just click at the beginning, and then just shift-click with the selection tool to select that little area. And then, under Effects, scroll down until Fade In. And then you can do that, and now it sounds much nicer, and you can do the same with the end with the Fade Out tool to make it end much smoother. And say I don't want to use all of this clip. I only want to use like the first half, and I want to use the other half for something else. You can just click with the selection tool, and then under Edit, Clip Boundaries, Split, and now you have two separate tracks. And now you can use the time shift tool to just move that to another part that you would want to use that for. But maybe you don't want to use that part at all, or you want to just cut it and move it to a separate file. Well, you can use the selection tool, select all of it, and then you can either delete it with the key shortcut, or you can cut it and then paste it in a separate tab. You can also drag in any audio file, and then it'll appear on a different track as usual, and then you can move it around, get everything into the place that you want it. Audacity also comes with a lot of built-in effects, and even I don't even really know what all of these do, but there is an immense amount of documentation for all of these, so you can just Google Audacity and the name of any one of these tools and figure out how to use it for what you want to do. There are also a lot of plug-in effects that you can find on the internet. One that I use a lot is the Time Machine one, which basically bit crushes your audio. And to use an effect, you just select the area that you want to be affected. So you can either say, I just want this part to be affected, or you can even press Control-A, and you'll have all of the track to your disposal. And then I'm going to apply the effect, and now it sounds like it's coming from an old device. And yeah, you can mix and match any amount of effects you want. Audacity can also be used for recording vocals. You just click the record button, and anything you say will be transferred into audio. And then you can go in and apply all the effects that you want. So we're going to add the Time Machine again to that. And it has completely butchered my vocals, so that's good. In terms of sample sounds, usually what I do is I just go to freesound.org. If you're just looking for basic sound effects, then that's a good place to start. People can just upload whatever sound effects you want. Most of the time it's raw recordings. If you're just looking for basic sound effects, Freesound is a good place to start. And that's as far as I am going to tell in terms of the basics for the program. So yeah,